The first thing you'll need to do to make sure that everything is working correctly, if you're using a tablet or an iPad, is to make sure the app is updated. This applies for both yourselves as teachers and for the students in order to be able to access all of the new features. If you're using Seesaw on a laptop or a Chromebook and accessing it through the website version, there's absolutely no need to update anything. I'm just going to start off here with a quick recap of how students log in both at home and in school. So to start off, it's for when they're in school. So as you can see here, I'm in a sample class, and I might actually just flick over to the page just to show you from here. So here's my sample class for this meeting. I've got 6 children into it, just numbered 1 to 5, and then just myself, my name Aoife. So when you're in class and you want the children to log in, you click this plus button with students at the bottom of the page, and this will pop up here. As you can see, there's a letter code here. This code only lasts for 1 hour or until you actually exit out of this particular screen. So you'll notice if I click out and go back in again, this code will have changed. So the children won't be able to log in again using that code. They'll have to swap to the other one. That's only if they're having difficulty using the QR code, which I use more often than not. So what I do is I go down here to print student sign-in poster, and then this download will appear. And what I do is I print out, at the moment I'm printing 1 per pod, so I print out this page, I cut out this particular part of it here, and then I just laminate them, and then I have them numbered for each of my pods on the table so that each table has one and they can just sign in really easily from class. That's, I suppose, obviously if you're using a laptop, sorry, not a laptop, using a tablet or an iPad, so that works quite well. So when your students are logging in from home, either for homework, if you're going to use it for homework, or if we go into another lockdown whereby we have to teach from home, there are some slight differences, like I was saying. So I will just pop into this page here and show you now in a second. So up the top here, you can see Get Home Learning Codes. So you're going to click that section there. There's a couple of different ways to actually view this, but there's a way that I personally prefer. So my preference is the print code options. So as you can see here now, just a small information sheet is at the front for the teacher. And then this here is for the number 1 child. Obviously yours will have initials on it. But so for number 1 child, I could print out this and send it home with them. And then they have access to both a number code here, sorry, a letter code here, and the QR code. So that way when they're at home, they'll be able to use either or. I personally prefer to be able to send home these QR codes and letter codes by email rather than just sending home as physical copy, which will also be important if we happen to be called for lockdown and we're not aware of it in advance, so we haven't actually sent these home. So the best way to do that is if you actually go up to the print option on the document, and then this will usually have your printer selected, but if you go into it and select Save as PDF and choose the page number that you want to save, so you can save them individually. So for example, child number 1 is on page number 2. So if I press number 2, you can see that's only showing up this login code for child number 1. So if I then just go and click Save, and I give that a name, child 1, then that document will actually be saved on your desktop or wherever you saved it with just child number 1's login details. And then obviously if you want to save child number 2, you do the same process again, save as PDF, page 3, because that is where child number 2 is, press save, save it to your desktop, child 2, and so on. The other way to send home the codes would just be to download the codes in general like this, and they just come up in an Excel document, and it just is a combination of the letter codes. The codes just come up like this, and if you just double tap on the cell, it will make them wide enough that you can read everything. So there you go, I can see child number 1's code is this, child number 2's code is this. Although as well, if you copy this here and send that home to the parents, if they put it into the address bar, it should give them the PDF. So that's probably actually an even easier way to do it there as well. So if you do the download code here, get the home sign-in PDF, copy that code, and if you can actually just email that directly to the parent, that's probably even an easier way to do it. So as you already know, this is how the students actually use those details that you've downloaded. So they go to the Seesaw homepage or the app, they select I'm a student, and they either enter the text code or scan the code. And that's how they then log into Seesaw. I'm just going to cover a few of the Seesaw basics here now. So for the journal in general, there's 3 different ways that you can view students' work. You can click on the journal tab to see all students' posts. You can click on the calendar icon to view work by a specific date, and you can click on a student's name to view work by that student. So to start with all of them, let's go back in here. And if you just click journal, any work that any of the kids have completed will appear in this area here. As you can see right now, there's nothing completed by anyone in this sample class, so that's why nothing's shown up specifically. Then if I want to go by individual student, you can just click that student's name, and that will then show them specifically and what work they've done. So for example here, I've just added in a piece of work under the IFA student. So you can see I'm in the whole class journal, it's just showing that piece of work because that's the only work that is there. And then if I click into IFA specifically, it'll show that work, but obviously if I click into the other children, it's not going to show there because it's not their piece of work. And back when I'm out in the class journal, or if a child has a particular piece of work done, you can go in and view calendar mode. So I can see that on the 30th of October, one child has completed a piece of work, and if I click into that, it will specifically show it. So if there's multiple pieces of work done that day, they'll all show up underneath there, and you'll be able to see them, and you can actually click into them as well, and then have a look at the activity that they've done. To show you the next bit on how students add to their journals, I'm actually just going to set an activity first, and then I'm going to log in as a student to see how it works. So if I go up to my class again, and I'll go into the activities tab, and I have set this activity here already, but I'm going to ignore that one for the minute. If I go to browse activity library, in here you can see that there's the community library and then there's my library. So with the community library, you can search by whatever class roughly that you want to go for. I go, say 3rd grade will be 3rd class because it's roughly the same, or say 4th grade will be 4th class. So for example, if I go in there and type in I can actually use one of these activities, so I can click in and have a look at it, see if I like it. Use the chart to show the strategies. I can have an actual look at the template that's there. I can have a look at the template the students are going to edit. And I go, yeah, I quite like that. So if I click the love heart, that will now save into my library. So I wouldn't click assign to class directly here at this stage. I'd go into my library, and you can see that that activity is now in your library. So if you want to assign that one, you can. One thing to note here is that if it is only a single page activity, and by that I mean there's only one page in the template for the students, you can actually go to copy and edit activity, and you can actually go in and change some of those things if you don't like them. You might notice these codes here as well. I'll actually explain some of those to you in a few minutes. But you can go in and you can change anything you like. You can actually go in and edit the template. You could add in whatever you want to that document, and you can save it, and then it becomes your own activity. So if you click save, then that activity is now your activity saved in your library, and you can use it in whatever way you wish. The only restriction here is if from the community library the activity you select has multi-pages, then you won't be able to actually edit it. So let me see this one, for example. Yeah, so this one here is a multi-page activity. So if I save that into my library, go into my library, and then if I want to actually edit that to make some changes to it, I actually can't because that's a paid for version. So if I go copy and edit here, you'll see it can't actually be done. However, if you would like to, you can actually try the free version for 60 days just by selecting that option there. But like I said, then with these ones, you can still use it, but you cannot change anything in it. You have to follow exactly what that person has assigned and their details. And if they have any voice instructions or anything, all of those will remain. So it'll be their voice rather than yours. So that's just one thing to note. So back to my library. If I then go in and set that activity for my students, so I'm going to use the one that has my image on it. So this is actually my one. So I might actually go in and remove this one from my library just for ease. Get rid of that one now. So now I only have the one version. I click assign. I go edit students, folders and skills. Let's say, for example, if this activity I don't want to set for child number 3 for whatever reason, let's say I've differentiated a task and have something different set for them, you can select who you want to be in it. And at this point, I really quite like this. So if we go to folders and create a folder, this is math, wasn't it? So if I create a math folder, and I'm going to make the math folder red, and I'm going to ignore skills for now because it's not part of the free version either. So press green and then create, sorry, not create folder, I've already done that. And then tick and assign to class. So now when I go back in here, you can see that activity is set. It's assigned to 6 students because I assigned it for them all except for child number 3 because it includes the sample student as well. And I can right now see that no one has responded. So I'm actually going to log out and log back in as a student. So I copied the code for a student, so I can actually log in now as that student. I'm a student and text code, just pasted it in, and I'm going to press go. And now here it goes straight to the activities tab. There is a slight new view for the students, like I mentioned earlier. So you can see that there's now a to-do tab, a done tab, and a calendar tab. So if I go to the calendar tab, it will just show them what activities they've completed on what days. If I go to done, it shows any activities that have been completed. And then to do, there are the to-do activities here. So as a child, I would go in here and go add response. And I'm just going to put a scribble on here just to make a change. I'm going to tick it. And you can see now if I go back to the activities tab, I have the done tab and the to do tab. So it's showing up the different options there. And if I go into the calendar tab, there we go. I'm in October now. I can see activity was done, and that's this one here. There are also the notifications for children, so they can see any announcements or notifications that come up. So added an item to the journal. So you can just see that I, as the teacher, added an item into their journal, so they're getting the notification to say that. The other way students can add a piece of work is by just going to the add tab up here. So if they have something they just want to upload for you, or you've just given them an instruction to do something that's not necessarily part of an activity, they can come in here. They can use all the same functions that they could use before. They can add in the shapes. They can also change the style of the shapes, they can change the order of it, they can lock them, they can duplicate it, they can delete it, and they can link it. Linking is actually a new feature that you as a teacher can do as well, which is great. So for example, if you wanted them to send you to a website, or if you want to send the children to a website, you can just, google.com, you can just go in and copy, copy that, and you can type it directly in here and link it. They can do this as well, like I said, because I'm in the child mode. And then let's say when they save it, you can actually click directly to that link and it will bring you there. And likewise with the kids, it will bring them to whatever links that you've saved into your items on there as well. With this, currently the option is that they can edit post, edit people, edit folders. So for example, as a student, they can go in and say, oh, well, if the folder was there, but let's say we'll call it maths. So they can go in and actually tag it directly into maths as well. So now it'll be organized in their feed as maths. They can go in if they've done group work and you have the editing settings on, which I'll show you now in a second. They can go in and edit people. So let's say if I worked with child number 2 and child number 3 and it was a group task that they did in school, then you can click that and now that will go into all 3 of those kids folders. And likewise, because it's in edit mode that we have it turned on at the moment, they can actually edit the post and they can go in and make changes to that as well. The lack of the draft function in the free version of Seesaw could be seen as a bit of a difficulty, but there's ways to work around that. So if you have editing turned on and the children go back into their tab, so if they go into done and they go back into the activity, they can actually respond again to it. So you could leave them a comment and say, not great work or whatever, or you missed this, and you might give them a little bit of instruction of how to improve it. They can go back in and they can respond again. Or also if you click directly into the activity, or if they click directly into the activity and click on it, and then go to the three dots in the bottom right corner, they can actually edit it as well. So keeping your editing functions on can be helpful for that if you want it to be a piece of work that kids go back to again and again. Obviously, every time they submit it, you will have to approve it, and then they can go back in again in order to edit it. So that's just another option that you can do there. So they can edit, add in their extra little bit of work that they've done, and that will then be waiting for teacher approval, as it was before, but it will have your edits. I've just signed back in as a teacher to that class, and you can see that I have activities. Sorry, this bar is in the way. You can see anyway down here that I have an item to review. So if I click on that review option, you can see that they're coming up here. Like I said before, because this child created it by adding in a link, if you actually click in and click it, it will bring you to that web page, which is a brilliant new feature if there's any games or activities that you want kids to be able to do as part of that activity. So it's showing up the send back function here, but if I click that, it doesn't actually work in the free version, like I was saying, but you can just ignore that for now. So like I said, if you think, oh, this isn't your best work, you might want to go in there and type in, please edit and try again. Or even actually, you might even say, please respond again. Whatever it is that you you might want to give them a little bit more detail as to why. And potentially what I really like to do actually is the voice note comments. I think they're very useful because you can give a lot of details to the kids, and then you can just hit approve, and then they can still go in and respond again to that activity. I have changed some of the settings up here now as well for the editing, and this is what I was talking about before. So where is the editing? Item editing. So if you go in here, when you're working in school, I would say it's perfectly okay to have enable item editing on and allow students to edit who is tagged in posts, because that just means if they work on an activity together, then they themselves can go in and tag the other person who worked on it by selecting the three dots. So for example, if I have these items both turned on, when the child is in their journal, they can still go to here and they can go edit people, and then they can tag whoever else they worked with on the activity. And then, like I said, that activity will go into all of those children's journals. However, when you're doing home learning, it's probably a little bit more risky to have it on, because then if a child is doing something that they shouldn't be doing, they can tag someone else in it and then remove themselves from it, and it looks like that work has been done by that particular child. So that's just something to watch out for. So keep an eye on your enable editing. At the moment, we're using it for homework, so I turn it off when they're at home, but when they're in school, I turn these back on so that they can go in and edit their work with me, so that when we're marking, we can group mark together, and they can go in and put ticks on their works and things like that. So it's a function that I change daily, and it's something just to note. While I'm in here, I'm just going to look at the other settings. So let's go down here. I would always say have it as class code 1-to-1 devices, because that just means that when the kids log in, they directly need to select who they are before adding any work, and it just saves any confusion later. However, if you'd like to keep the editing off, you could actually just have this set to shared devices, and then when they add a piece of work, they just select the names of whoever was involved in that task, and that's another option. I personally prefer the 1-to-1 device option. Then you can manage students in here as well. So if you have extra students that you need to add in, just put one per row and you can add extra students, nice and easy. That's very handy to add more students, and you can see that they'll be over there. Then if you want to manage students, there's the home learning codes. You can access them from in there as well. Student likes and comments. I actually enable this because I like students to be able to like their own work and to comment on their own work, but that all comments require approval. So that's very important. Then also students can see each other's work. I would turn that off all the time. When they're using home learning codes, they can't see each other's work anyway, but I would just set it that they can't see each other's work, because it just is more complicated, I feel. New items require approval. I would always keep that on. I've already spoke to you about the editing. You can enable the sample student if you like. For now, you are going to leave in family access off and the blog off. Manage folders is another great section. So you can go in and change folders. So now I might want English, reading. I like to separate them out. and then I just keep them in the same color. So English, oral language, and so on. So you can put it in the folders that you'd like. Then again, here my kids have been using it for the last 2 years, so I have it that they can also select what folder goes into, so students and teachers. So when they complete a piece of work, it asks them to tag it directly into a folder, which I'll demonstrate to you now in a minute. I'm going to ignore the scales because that's not a feature for the free version of Seesaw. So I've just signed back in as a student. As you can see here, this work is now in those 3 folders, so I as a student can see who the work was done with, but that was tagged when I had the editing settings on. I've now turned the editing settings off, so you'll see that there's no 3 dots in the right hand corner, so I can't go in and edit to add anyone onto those activities. Even when I select into them, there's no option for me to edit and tag anyone in those activities at all. So that's the importance of those features being turned off. That's how they work. It also has an impact on the activities, like I was mentioning. So if I go into the Done tab, they can't go in and actually physically edit this activity now because the 3 dots are gone. However, the option is still there to respond again, so they can go in and respond again. So if you've given feedback, which I believe we left some feedback on this one, let's click in and see. Oh, it was the other one we left feedback on actually. But so if you have left feedback on that, they can see, oh, she wasn't that happy with it, I can respond again, and so on. Then just to show you with the folder setting that I changed where the students and the teachers can add, if they go in here, they create a document, they change the background, they add in some shapes, whatever it is that they've done, whatever the task is, job done, they tick it, and then they can actually tag it directly into whichever folder is relevant. They don't actually have to tag a folder, so they can just click tick, and then it doesn't actually go into a folder if they're not sure. But it's just quite a nice way for them to distinguish between the different activities that they're doing as well, and what skills they've worked on or what subjects they've been working on. So just going to have a quick look here. We've already done the find and assign activities mostly. So I've shown you to go to the green tick. You can go to, sorry, I'm not signed in as a student here. So I'm going to sign back out and sign in. So I'm back signed in as a teacher here. So I can assign my activities in a number of ways. I can go to the activities tab. I can go browse activity library. I can just give that a moment. I can search through the community activity library to get some activities, or I can go to my library. I can choose activities that I already have there or I've already saved from the community library, or I can create my own activity directly, which will just be here. So you can give it a title, let's just call it maths, and then this is the next bit you need to know. So these Seesaw icon codes, which I'll have saved and sent on in the additional resources as part of this video. So if you use these codes, when you type them in, then they'll come up with a little image, which can be really helpful for children. So for example, use colon, drawing colon, and then that will come up when you save it as that image. Let's say link as well. And let's say rec is for the green tick. And let's say pen, take pencil, and so on. You can add voice instructions, so there, and you can read through the instructions for the children, just another way for them to listen. If you have an example to show them, you add it in the multimedia instructions example here. However, if it's something that you want the kids to be able to manipulate, please make sure you create it in student template, because if you created it in this section, you can't copy it over to here, so you have to start all over again, which is a bit of a nightmare. In more options, you can add in some teacher's notes, and with skills, like I said, just ignore. So let's just save that. I know it's not complete, but let's save it to start. And I can show you how those icons show up. So you can see now, instead of words, they're the images. So you can add them as part of your instructions to make very clear instructions for the children. Then I'm going to go back in and edit the activity because I'm not finished with it. I'm going to add an example. So let's say this is just the sample that I want the children to look at. 2 times 2 equals 4. We're just keeping it very basic. that is the example. And then for the add student responses, I want them specifically to be restricted to using the drawing tool, but not necessarily any template. So I can just press tick. And then that is their activity set up. And so you can see the little icons have appeared as well as part of the activity codes. Then they have a template to edit, which just means that you're restricting them to using the drawing tools and that they can't use video upload or any of the other options that you have. So again, you could leave that free and let them decide how to upload their work, but I do think it's good to give them some sort of structure. As your activity library builds up, it's nice to be able to put a little bit of organisation to it. Now, in the free version of Seesaw, you can only use 2 collections, I believe. So if you go to the pink heart and click it, you can organise your activities. So since you are using the free version, I'd probably just have 2 of them: homework, and schoolwork. And then let's say, so the activity that I have just created there, I'm going to call that schoolwork. So I tag it into that folder. And then if I go down here, I can view my collection. I go back to the library just to see where they all are. So you can go down here and you can see now I've got 2 collections: homework, schoolwork, and activities not in a collection. And it just means that there's a bit more organisation to it all rather than it all just being right there in front of you. Seesaw have been busy updating their features as well, so there's some new features that are quite useful. The ones I'm going to go through with you are just the video links, drawing and recording features, pinning a post, sharing a student link, so then you can then share that link as part of a timetable perhaps. And then I've already actually gone through the student view with you, so I'm not going to go through that. So here's an example of something that you can do with the videos. So you can video on the canvas. So you can insert a video and then create a collage of a video and other features on one page to then create an activity. So for example, you can insert a little video showing how to play a game here. You can give some instructions and then allow them to actually complete the game over here as well. So that's quite a nice new feature. I'm just going to show you a few examples here of how to actually use that video feature. So when you go in to create your activity, type your instructions, add your voice instructions, add your multimedia instructions or example, and then for the children to actually, in the add template section is where you're going to do what I was just showing you. So if you go to the picture and then go upload, then on the desktop, I have saved Abertir na Gaeilge. You can actually change the size of that as well. So this is how you'd insert these videos. Press play.
Asel. Oh.
And that'll go through there. So then over to the side, you can add in instructions like listen to the video, and then you could say record yourself making the letter sounds. Change around the size of that. You can change around the styles, the fonts. You can change around if you want to have the box around it, if you want it to be whole dark, all those different things. So just the basic functions, whatever way you want to do it. And you can give them all different activities that you want them to do in there. As you know, like I said, in the free version, you can only have the 1-page activity, but if you want to upgrade to the multi-page one for a while, you can do it for 60 days by clicking there. When you save this activity, then that is saved as the template for them. So I'm just going to save that, and I'm going to really quickly assign it to a child. I'm going to assign, edit students. I'm just going to go sample student, and I'm going to go back into the class. I'm going to complete this as if I am the sample student now directly from here rather than going into the child's profile. So this is the way you can test an activity if you like. So go add response, hit sample student. Child then can listen to this.
Asel. Orison.
So they can listen to the whole thing, and then the instruction was record yourself making the sounds. They can click the mic tool, starts recording in 3, 2, 1. then I can go, also, and so on until I finish the whole way through it. Press pause and done. A nice thing to note here is that'll take over the whole page. Then I can go, also. Or you can actually reduce the size of it, so just by clicking on it and pulling in those down here. So you can make it into a nice little small section that then they put there, or whatever way you want to work that, and then they can just click save. In addition to that, I'm just going to go post student work, but you can do this in the activity section. If you'd like to put a little video instruction that's you in your own voice, you can do that. So let's say if I want to use the drawing tool, and I might say 2 plus 2 equals 4, and I can extend that video on for as long as I want it to be. I can go into lots of detail. Actually, I think there's a 5-minute limit, so not as long as you want it to be, but 5 minutes. Press pause and done. Then I can just press play to listen to it. 4, and I can extend that video on for as long as I want it to be. I can go into and so on. And with that, lots of detail. Actually, I think there's a 5-minute limit, so as before, if you click outside it, then you can drag and make it nice and small and pop it up into the corner. You can delete what you had underneath it then. That video is there, and it could be give as much detail as you want in it. And then you might write some written instructions, you might include some shapes, you might include some counters, whatever it is that you want them to do. So like you could actually add in, sorry, not the background, you could add in some counters, and then they have to use those to write a number sentence, or whatever way it is that you want them to do it. That option is all there. But yeah, that's quite a nice feature of the updated Seesaw. Here's just a quick reminder of the links that you can use now on the canvas as well, which is very useful. So it can be used on the children's end, or it can be used on your end. So for example, you might have a link to a video that the children need to watch, then you might have a link to another article where they're going to read something, and then you might have a link to a website that they're going to explore to do whatever the topic is that you're working on. Just to show you how easy that is, again, go into the drawing tool, you can put in, you can link to shapes, you can link to text box, you can link to whatever you want really. So if I press just the word link, and then I can literally type in whatever the link is that you want it to go to, I can add in a shape and I can link something to that shape. I'm just going to link Google again just for ease, but you can add in links to whatever you want. If it's perhaps a math scheme that you want to link to, just put in this shape, and you can go, there's a good website that I always like to use called Math is Fun. I think it's .com. Let's type in and see what happens. Okay, so that was actually the wrong web address, so it knows itself. Math is fun. Yes, that seemed to work, and when you click on it, it'll bring you to the Math is Fun website. So there's loads of options that you can do and loads of opportunity to use the links. And that's just showing you again how to do it. So you can attach them to labels, shapes, videos, and pictures just by clicking the 3 dots and selecting link. Right, these are just the last 2 little tips for you now. As before, I've already gone through the editing, so I'm going to focus mainly on how to pin a post to the top of your feed. So for example, if it's an activity that you want them to be able to see all the time, or if it's a document that has some information that they need to have all the time, like login codes or whatever, you can now pin to the top. So if you go into Seesaw and you go to the journal feed, and let's say, for example, this is something that you want them to see all the time, you can go to the 3 dots and just go pin to the top. And then that will pin to the top of anyone who has that in their journal. So there you go, it's pinned directly to the top of their activities. And that's how easy that one is. Then the last little tip is actually one that I really like. It's new, so it might be really helpful if we do have to go in, be locked in again. So there's a way to share a student link, and then assign activities, to assign the activities and then display them on a student timetable. So for example, if you've already assigned activities, so for example in here in the activities tab, you can go to the three dots underneath it now and select get student link, and then copy that link. And then if you paste that into a timetable, you can then, the kids will just come along and they can literally click that link and it'll bring directly to them, or it'll bring them directly to the maths for Monday. So I've copied the maths link here and I've saved it into this timetable. I've only saved the one link for now, but if you click it, or the kids go in and click it, or even if it's in a notification or an announcement or whatever, and they click it, it will bring them directly to that activity to be completed. So it's quite a nice way for it to work, rather than them having to search through the activity feed all the time, because that can be a bit overwhelming. So if they come in here and let's say you have a whole week's worth of activities preset, they'll see the to-do tab and it'll have so much in there. So that's just a way to overcome that issue. Just a few final extras. As I was editing, I thought of a few extra bits that I wanted to share with you. So there's filter by folder, sharing activities, and then just a quick way to select, copy and paste. You might already know about the copy, paste and select, but I just said I'd mention it anyway because it does help a lot with Seesaw. So to start with, filtering by folder. So with your whole class, you can see the little folder icon over here. If you select that, you can actually choose which folder you want to view at a time. And that's the reason I really like organising work into folders. So if I want to see, okay, I want to see what all of the children have done in my class for maths, I can just select maths, and then that will only show me anything that's saved into their maths folder only. Now I can do it individually by child as well. So I click on the specific child, and then if I select the little folder option, I can see, so this child has one item in their maths folder. So I will only see those items. So that is really useful, especially as you build up with more and more items. So for example, this one here, there's an item in maths and there's an item in nothing, not in a folder. So I can see, I can filter by maths that for that. So there's an option there to check items by folder. Then for sharing activities, it's one I forgot to say. So for example, if one of your teachers makes an activity and another another teacher in the school wants to use it, you can actually share that activity with them. So if you go into your Browse Activity Library and you go to My Library, and let's say I have created an activity for, I don't know, sports week or whatever, and you want to share it with the whole school, if you click into the activity and just go to the three dots and go share activity, then you can get teacher link. So when you copy the teacher link, then you can paste that into, I'm just going to paste it into a new browser, for example. When you paste it into an email and send it on to that teacher, it'll pop up in their browser like this, and they have to select save activity, and then it will be into their journal as well. Sorry, into their activity library. And lastly, the Control A, Control C, and Control V are the shortcut codes for selecting, copying and pasting. So for example, the select isn't as useful, I suppose, in Seesaw, but copy and paste really are, but I will show you the select anyway. So for example, if I'm in here and I want to select everything on that, if I press Control and the letter A at the same time, see it selects all of the text on there. If I hold down Control and C, and then let's say if I go to a new slide, I can then go Control and V. That's pasted exactly in what I had. In this case here, I probably should actually go Control A first, delete what was there, Control and V just to paste it in. Just a nice little quick way to do things. So for example, if I'm in an activity, just go Edit Activity, and let's say I want to copy something, or if I want to paste something, you can Control and V, and it will paste in. So if I go Control and C, Control and V, I only have one video for a page, so it won't work for that. Let's say if I do a shape, Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V. For anything, I Control C to copy, Control V to paste, and I just paste those items I had selected before.